Hello, my name is Michael McCarthy, and in this video we're going to be looking at cat motion and how to create parametric walk cycles in Autodesk 3ds Max Cat. So we created this cat parent here with the alien structure, and we're just going to go over into the motion panel and add in our cat motion layer. Now in order to activate this layer, we'll just press play, and you'll see automatically we get a little walk cycle here for this character. So to edit this walk cycle, we're going to click on this button here, which is going to bring up our cat motion interface. And this is going to have all the different menus in order for us to adjust the walk cycle. So the first thing that we'll look at here is going to be the globals. Click on globals and you can see that we have a start and end range, as well as these areas in here which will adjust the character's stride. If we just kind of play this back, we can see that we can drop the step time down from 25 to maybe 10, and this character will walk a lot faster. Or we can bump it up to something like 60, and the character steps will be quite a bit slower. And this kind of affects the entire rhythm of the character itself. So we'll bring this back down to 25. And the next parameter we have here is stride length. So you can see that this character has a certain stride length, and we can up that. So we'll bring this up to maybe 180. And you can see that that gets a lot longer. Or we can drop it down to something like 50. And we can see that it's a lot shorter. So whether you want long or short steps, you can adjust that here very easily. I'll bring it back to the default of 160. Okay, so the next area that we have here, or parameter that we have, is direction. And that's kind of the direction of the character walking. And at 0, it's just walking forward. If we go and set this to 80 or 90, then the character will kind of walk over to the side, kind of like a crab would. And you can adjust this all the way around so that the character will walk backwards. So the nice thing about these is they're all animatable parameters, anything with a spinner here, and you can adjust them to do whatever you like. So we can go to 55 and turn on auto key and just go from 180 to 0, and you can see we get a little key there. And the character over that time will kind of go from side to side to walking forward. So I think we'll go back here and actually just go to frame 0 and set this to 0 so that that's all in the same place. Okay, so in the next panel we're going to look at the limb phases, and this is basically how the limbs work together and what phase they happen to be in. So when we play this back, you can see that everything is kind of standardly out of phase with each other in a looping scenario. And you can adjust this in a lot of different ways. So you see you have leg 1 and leg 2, and they are, equally out of phase. And you can just kind of drag these, so if they're, exactly in phase, then the character is going to kind of hop or have a slight limp. And you can adjust, just subtle nuances of it as well, just to kind of get an interesting lean or some asymmetry to your character. So I could bring down this arm a little bit just so that we have a little bit of a difference there on that side, maybe some more weight or something like that happening there, which is kind of nice. Now that will give you all of these things for any of the limbs that you happen to have. So depending on whether this is a preset character you've made or one that you've made from scratch, you'll get any number of different pelvis groups, rib cages, all of this different stuff will show up here. So just really quickly, we'll hop in and just create another character just to show this. We'll just create a centipede and go ahead and apply a cat motion layer to it. Put it in play there. And when we go into edit cat motion, you can see that all the different hubs for this character happens to be in there. And when we go into limb phases, you can see the limb phases for all the legs that are in there. Because this character obviously has many more limbs and walks differently. So you can adjust those phases, which you probably do for this guy, so that it works a little bit better for that particular character. So back over to our main character here. Those are kind of the global and main settings for the character. And then you have the local settings for every main hub and even different pieces of the feet and hands in order to adjust to get a better walk cycle. So in this case, we'll just go into the pelvis group and the pelvis itself, and you can see that we get twist, roll, pinch, lift, all these different things that we can adjust for the character. So let's just take a quick look at the twist of the pelvis. So I'll put this in place so that we can watch it and kind of see how it twists back and forth. And you can adjust these things over to the right. So this is all a loopable curve that you can adjust the different values for the keys you have selected. So you can cycle through the keys here, or you can just select them in the graph themselves and drag things in the graph if you like to. And you can also adjust any one of these things like just an overall scale, which is kind of nice when you're becoming acquainted with how these parameters work. So if I scale this down, you'll see that we get a lot less twist in that pelvis now. And if I scale it way up, we'll see that we get a real lot of twist there. So there's many, many different parameters that you can adjust to get a really very convincing and realistic walk cycle for your characters. So that's a little bit about adjusting some of the basic parameters in cat motion. In the next video, we'll look at some of the specific parameters for the pelvis and the foot and adjusting the keys and things of that nature.